Hey guys, today I'm making a pot for a demonstration firing that's going on in February here in Tucson. So I want it to be really nice. So I thought I'd go over some tips for coil pottery, since that's what I'm going to be doing. So today I'm going to talk about the 4 coil pottery tricks that every hand builder should know. This is great stuff that anybody, no matter what your experience level is, I think you'll get something out of this. So check this out. I'm Andy Ward. I make pottery the way it was made centuries ago here in the American Southwest. And if you subscribe to my channel, you can learn how to do it too. So the first trick I'm going to talk about is pushing the form out from the inside. So when you're building a form up with coils, you can put the coils where you want it, meaning that if you're building the form out, you put the coil towards the outside of the body. If you're building the jar in, you put the coil towards the inside of the body and pinch it in that direction. You can also build the walls up completely vertically if your clay is plastic enough, and then you use your gourd scraper to push out that shape. And I'll show you how that's done. You can actually shape your jar just by pushing it around using the gourd scraper, using that rounded shape on the outside of the gourd to actually form the rounded shape of your jar. Make sure you use your other hand on the outside to keep from pushing too far. I've seen old video of Maria Martinez pushing out pots this way, really skillfully. In fact, building it up as a cylinder and then pressing it out into a nice, beautiful, rounded shape later. The second trick I want to talk about is air pockets. A lot of people spend a lot of unnecessary time worrying about getting air bubbles out of their clay because it causes breakage. This is nothing more than an old wives' tale. Air bubbles in your clay do not cause breakage. It's been proven. So if you spend a great deal of time wedging your clay because you've heard that's necessary to work all the air bubbles out, don't waste your time. Wedging is nothing more than an antiquated process that is not necessary. Kneading your clay is important because you want it to be a consistent all the way through, consistent dampness, consistent feel. But wedging, that elaborate process of kneading it in a spiral motion, is completely useless. Save yourself the time, focus on your technique, and stop worrying about wedging. The same goes for rolling coils. When you have that little open space in the mouth of a coil, I think they call it like a snake mouth or something. I mean, you don't want a huge gap in your clay wall because it's a weakness in your pot. So yes, you don't want a big air bubble in there. But if you have a small air bubble in there, it's not the end of the world. It's not going to hurt anything. Stop worrying about that. Focus more on forming a good pot, a well-formed pot, a structurally sound pot, and stop worrying about air bubbles unnecessarily. Here's something that comes up in my workshops all the time. Flared rims. When you look at prehistoric pottery, oftentimes they have this beautiful flared rim. At least beginner coilers often don't know how to achieve that. So the trick is to use your thumbs. You have this nice rounded shape on the outside of your thumb, and if you turn that around and press into the clay with it, that can become the outside of that flared rim. The trick to flared rims then is to pinch using the curved portion of your thumb on the outside of the jar and then pulling it up and flaring that rim out. Now the fourth tip I have for you today for coiling pottery is to know your pinches. It's all about your pinches. There's 3 main pinches that I teach people in my workshops that are useful in building coil pottery. The first is the flat pinch. The flat pinch is merely bringing your thumb and forefinger together in a flat direction. This just presses the clay thinner and spreads it out farther laterally. The flat pinch is useful in thinning the walls of your pottery to the desired thickness. You can get a feel for it as you pinch around the pot and kind of know how thick it is. Feel the areas that are thicker and need to be pinched thinner. Feel the areas that are maybe a bit too thin or thin enough, and don't pinch those anymore. The flat pinch is used for thinning your pottery. Now, if you go all the way around your pot with a flat pinch, you're going to find that you end up with a flower pot shape where the walls just keep coming out, because as you pinch those thinner, you're spreading that clay out wider. So you need the compression pinch, and that is really the opposite. That is actually bringing the pot together. This can thicken the walls, but it can also bring them in. This is really useful for if you've built a cylinder, for example, and you want to bring in the rim or the neck to make it into a jar, a nice closed mouth jar, or any place you have the pot too wide and you want to constrict it a little more. So pinching with the two hands and then pulling together, pleating the clay, if you will, creating a tiny little pleat as you pull it together. This can make it thicker, but it also makes it narrower laterally, so it brings that coil in, constricts it. And you can keep on compressing like that until you bring the pot all the way in on itself. Compression pinch is important because that allows you to come in, whereas a flat pinch thins your walls and pushes it out. And the third pinch I want to talk about, and this one is critical, and that is the bonding pinch. This is the pinch that connects your coil to the base form that you're attaching it to. So once your coil has been laid on top of the wall of your pot, a bonding pinch is merely, and it's usually with a thumb, but it can be with a forefinger, a downward press of the coil into the main body of the pot, bonding that coil firmly so that they become one piece of clay in essence. And you'll want to do this all the way around for each coil so that it's firmly bonded into the body of the pot. The 4 tricks we went over today for coil pottery were: 1, pushing the form out from the inside using a gourd scraper. 2, stop worrying about air bubbles in your clay. 3, flared rims, creating flared rims with that rounded shape of your thumb. And 4, know your pinches. You apply these to your coil pottery and you're going to get better. Leave me a comment down below if you have any other tips that I didn't cover here. I'd like to hear what tricks you have to share. And don't forget to like and share this video. Catch you next time.